let's talk about following, unfollowing, blocking your favorite authors and influencers.
Dun,
The
dun, dun.
controversy
I know. I
continues.
was like, stay tuned for next week. We'll come back with an episode.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Blank Pages. We're always here to stir the pot.
Yes. So the whole reason I think that we wanted to come on here is because there's a whole bunch of different perspectives. And I think it all depends on the situation. And not everybody is privy to the details of situations, but everybody is judging. And they're judging like they're all the same. And they're not.
No. Yeah. And I think there's actually 3 different
takes
areas to this. There's 1, 2.
You know, they can't see if they're listening to this, they can't hear your hand movements.
Oh, that's true.
1, 2, and middle.
So they're just listening to this.
Left, right, middle.
Yeah, here we go. So we have authors sometimes do and don't know influencers. Influencers are sometimes massive and they have their own following and their own fans, essentially. And sometimes authors will follow influencers. Influencers will follow authors. And sometimes influencers like authors' books, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes authors are friendly and nurture relationships with influencers in order to get them to read their books, or are just friendly with them. And then sometimes they don't. They aren't, right? Yeah. And sometimes they stay away. So it becomes a very gray area. So when you have a very big influencer being unfollowed or blocked by a very big author, or vice versa, sometimes that causes a lot of drama. And a lot of people want to judge that and have opinions on that. And my initial question is, what was that relationship like? Was there even a relationship? Like, is there a reason for anybody to even be emotional? Was there backstabbing? Was there not backstabbing? What is going on? Because there's so much more to the picture. And more importantly, I'm never going to know. So I just keep scrolling. But a lot of people don't keep scrolling. A lot of people comment and a lot of people.
And I have to admit, this is where women, we tend to just, oh my gosh, the drama where a guy would be like, and followed, moving on. You know,
I'm very much a guy in that situation.
I am too. I am too. This is where, especially from our point of view as an author, to make friends. And it's not because we're all in this book world. We all love books deep down. You know, that's what bonds us all. And we want to become friends with everybody. But then that can be a sword at the end of the day, because let's say you do become friends. You're like laughing with this, you know, but they are an influencer and they read that book that you put your heart and soul into and they hate it, or, you know, and that is a sword, like that you feel like, wait, I thought we had this relationship, and vice versa too. Like, you know, if the influencer thinks that they're friends with the author and the author doesn't give them a book, like an arc or something, that can also be, you know, so I'm like, there's a lot of hard feelings when that relationship changes, you know, when the dynamics change of like, oh, you didn't like it and that hurt my feelings. Almost like, I thought we were friends. You should have at least liked it, or like, you know, I don't know.
And
it's
then
just
on the other side of it, it's like, well, we're friends and I'm allowed to not like your book.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes tough for authors to hear, especially when you're in this community. And especially when some authors, they do seek out these people, and which can be manipulative in some ways, right? And if you feel like that author sought you out, befriended you, and then you gave it a poor review and now they're no longer friends with you, that can feel manipulative, right? Mm-hmm. And the same thing can happen the other way around.
Yeah.
So I think, I have been, you know, I am a protector of peace, right? So I block and unfollow moral things, right? People making fun of others or being derogatory or things of that nature. But for reviews, I will either like it or not. But we've also talked about readers, influencers tagging us in negative reviews. And I usually don't block or unfollow. I just swipe. But I'm also at the same time like, why would you do that? Like,
and I think it's so exactly what are people upset about that she blocked her? You know, like let's say
it wasn't
an author, an influencer are friends, and the influencer did not like this book and the author blocked them. But that does not keep that influencer from continuing to talk. Yes, her feelings are hurt because they probably thought there was more of a friendship there. But maybe, you know, at the same time, some people need to, you know, like defend, like block themselves from that hurt, you know, like that maybe have taken, you know, you don't know that author that might have devastated their entire day,
Well,
you
there's
know,
also,
or
yeah, it's business, but there's also the repercussions of somebody with a very large platform posting a negative review, right?
yeah.
So it can have a very negative impact on a book's launch if it was posted in the beginning. It can also have, if they say there's something immoral about it, that could have a pitfall of comments, DMs, of threatening of this negative reaction, right? And sometimes influencers, sometimes they do know it and that's what they want, but sometimes they don't know it. Right. And it can also open up an invitation if you have this whole beehive, this echo chamber of a community that's, I love this author. I love every book. I love, 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 love. And then somebody says, oh, I didn't like it. And they're of a large platform. And then everybody else pipes up, oh, and I didn't like this. I didn't like that. And then there's
and they might have not ever read that book. They might have not ever known, like they just go off of like, oh, you know, and they start doing the drama along with it. And you're like, but you didn't read that book. You know, you don't like, I think I understand why people are on there and they want to listen to that influencer that made them laugh, talk about a book. But as a person, like, I don't know, an author, reader, I'm not sure, but it makes me crazy because no matter what now, good or bad, that person's opinion is in your head. So if you never picked up this book before, what if that was your favorite book, but because you heard them talk about it and go, oh, I didn't like it. Secretly, we're human. We want to be like, I want to be a part of the, you know, like, why did they not like it? And I liked it. Does that make me weird? So it's just a mind thing of, so you go into it already looking for things not to like about it.
And let's also add in some spicy spice, right? Because a lot of the times, if there's this community driven positive impact about this book, a lot of times, you know, the community, they're benefiting from this community conversation. Then it turns negative and now they're not benefiting and it feels like harm and it might even be harm, but sometimes they're paying the influencers.
Right. Yeah. And then it brings in also where authors don't belong in reader review spaces, but you're forcing the author into the reader review
if you tag us, like, I don't want to see it. And like, if it's a negative review, that's fine. Again, that's your opinion. You can say it, whatever you want to do. But as soon as you tag me or somebody like lets me know and brings me into that space, that's a whole, like, you know.
So
I still scroll. I'm still like,
I still scroll, but
yeah, this is not for me. And I that's when I think, why did you do that? Like this is, I'm not supposed to be here.
See, my whole thing is she may have just blocked for a little while. Like, did they go to her and ask, like, hey,
I don't think that.
Is there a reason that you blocked me?
I don't know. Are we talking about a specific incident? Because the incident that
incident, like, okay, I've seen several recently.
I've seen Unfollowing.
Why don't you go to the author and say, or the influencer, did I do something wrong?
Well, at the same time, should you? This is business. This is business, right? And for these influencers as well, this has become their business. And it's not accurate for them to say this isn't business. This is my hobby. You're getting paid for this. You're getting paid by your follow. Like, it's become a business. So let's call it what it is.
If you're friends.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a line of how friends you are.
Friend, because I would never treat my friends that way. I would never air my dirty laundry on TikTok.
I would just cry. I'd be like, you like me.
It's
so,
messy.
I don't know.
I think that's what, like, business, when it comes down to money at the end of the day, it's lines, like they always say, don't like borrow money from family or something like that. It's in that same pocket of lines get really messy. And just understand, like, does the friendship come first or does your business come first?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're not even friends though. Sometimes it's like, sometimes it's
and like there's that,
they
you
just
know,
see it and
we're friends, like in that, like, you know, I've seen you at events and we've talked and I've loved your stuff. That to me isn't friends. That's, you know,
for one side, it feels like a friendship and for the other, it doesn't.
Yeah.
That is also very common in our industry.
Very common.
It is highly common. Or sometimes people want to be your friends when they want something and they'll ask you personal questions and they'll talk to you and chat with you. And then the business question comes out and then, you know, you're thinking, oh, where did you want to go get coffee, whatever. And you're left on red. like that.
I even get that a lot because people want to use me to get information that they think that they can get from me. And I am very protective and I will
Yeah, I
keep
was like,
all
don't mess with
information
her.
inside. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm probably more going to spill than she is ever going to spill. So yeah.
Yes. I
And
am like Fort
I
Knox.
love chatting about business. And I think a lot of people message me about business all the time. And I think some feel bad because they're only messaging me about business. And I'm like, we're in a business. And I
Yeah.
I want to talk about
To
business.
me, as long
I
as you're
love.
upfront about what you want, don't
Yes.
use me for like, if you're just coming going, hey, I just need a question from you about this, like, great, I give you information. But if you're using me to get
Yeah.
that information, that's where
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's not
not okay.
necessary.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
Isn't there like a dating app that's like, do you want a serious relationship? Do you just want to talk to somebody? Do you want to just have a fuck buddy? Like, like we should have that on our things. Like, I'm available to talk business without you needing to kiss my ass or to try
Yes.
to get information about my kids just to warm me. Like, you do not need to butter me up for business. Like,
Exactly.
that should be a button.
Like,
Don't
girl,
butter up
I'm
for
already
business.
buttered up and ready to go on that sand skittle. Like,
We never know what
yeah.
the hell we're going to talk about on this thing.
No.
Other buttons.
Like, this is a really hard controversy because there's really no right or wrong answer. It's all
Exactly.
gray.
We're
And
all
it's
so
so hard to
different.
be like, this is right, this is wrong. It's
You
all
can't.
right and wrong.
Yeah. You also don't know that, like, I'm never going to get worked up about something like this because you never know what the other, even if you're the person that's involved, right? You don't know what the other person is going through or what they were thinking,
Right.
what their perception is, right? So imagine being an onlooker. You literally have no idea about any of those details. Like, you can always say, like, everybody has the right to unfollow or the right to block. But if you found out that that person sought out that person and sent like was trying to manipulate them into saying something, then all of a sudden your opinion would change immediately. You know,
Yeah.
or if you found out
I
money was exchanged, and I mean, there are some influencers who charge thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're giving a raving review because they got paid for that. Like that
yeah.
changes your perspective of whether or not you should be influenced by it. Because if you're giving somebody $10,000, you're getting a 5-star review,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
not authentic,
I
right?
think anybody on the outside that doesn't know personally what's going on, either step back and like keep your opinion to yourself, because I was involved in something that blew up and this person was going on and on about something that was not true. It was not real. But then other people were like, oh my God, da da da. And they just jumped in. And now we're like ganging up that beehive thing. And I'm like, what just happened? And it was like, none of it was, this person has been kind of known to say things like this and get the, likes, that
Outrage.
kind of drama,
Mhm.
and went after something that I was like, that's not true. I've seen, but then all the people, I mean, and then it started affecting sales. It started affecting, and you're like, oh my God, but we have this mind beehive thing of like, oh, that must be true if she's saying it and she's getting on her TikTok. No, not always, people,
So
and that's what,
this kind of bleeds into another topic. So can we just dive on into it right
yeah,
now?
let's go.
Go for
Let's
it.
do it. Okay, so another topic that we wanted to talk about is the messy outrage culture versus progressive moral enlightening, we should call it,
Yeah.
right? And there's two different things, and outrage culture absolutely manipulates and uses a morality standpoint. So if you're not
Yes.
familiar with what I mean when I say outrage culture, it's saying it's looking at a beaded necklace that somebody's wearing and saying, oh my God, that's reminiscent of such and such. And that means that they must have done X, Y, and Z. And that means that they must be a blank, and running with it and inciting these emotions, inciting this anger. And all the while, that could have been a necklace that they got at Claire's that had absolutely nothing to do with what they thought it had to do with. And it didn't really matter whether or not it was true. What mattered was creating this atmosphere of likes and comments and views and saying, I'm more moral because I'm identifying this, and you should be enraged to see
Yeah.
this. And it's sometimes it might actually be true, or there might be a sliver of truth, but the mental gymnastics that it took to get to the point isn't an indication of what that person believes. Sometimes it is an indication of what that person believes, right? And
It's a hard, because I've seen stuff on TikTok about people, a group of authors that they're like, I burned this book. And then they're judging people that are like, oh, I like that book. And they're like, do you know they did this? And it's almost shaming that other person
it
now
is
to
shaming. It's
deck them
bullying.
too. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's straight
one
up
thing with
bullying.
books
Yeah.
books, authors, good or bad, the whole thing is us writing stuff that not all people agree with. Is there some things that to me, I am like, you are a horrible person and I would never look at, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't get on and be like, now all of you need to not read those books.
Well, some things are racist. Other things,
Yeah.
there isn't anything that's overtly moral that means anything about their character, but people are acting like it is, or
Yeah.
acting like it must mean, or it must be. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's one hit, two hit, three times you've done something that's an
Yeah. Then you
indication that
start.
this, so you're probably this, right? And you can talk about it in probabilities, and you can talk about this in, I feel like this might mean. It's different though when you say it is this, how dare you, how dare she, burn it all. And it's like you could
Yeah.
be wrong. You could be into
You could
this.
be very
This
wrong.
is,
And
yeah, this has happened
there
recently.
is an author I know that they're wrong about right now. And again, it's not probably who people think like they're
Yeah.
going to assume it's that one, I'm like, no, it's another one that's a smaller, but it's still on this pile that
Yeah.
I've seen. And I'm like, you don't know this person. They're the kindest, sweetest, and they're like anti this, but you took something that they wrote like 10 years ago and changed it into this now moral high ground of like, and it just makes me crazy that people just jump on this thing and now you're the extreme. It's
Yep.
not giving the benefit of the doubt. It's not going, oh, maybe that was kind of like, that didn't age well or whatever it is. They just right away, you're this and we need to burn your books. And I'm like, oh my God, is that any better than the other side banning and burning books?
Yeah.
You know?
No, not at all. And that can come from a place of when you're in a triggered state, right? And you see something that's a threat and you immediately want to extinguish it, right? And that's for you though, right? This isn't for you to blast onto the internet, right? But when that is what we've created, where it's like anybody can say anything that they want, and if you can make it into a moral issue, you're gonna go viral and you can really hurt somebody. And the whole point of doing this is hurting someone. It doesn't even matter who. If you
Yeah.
can find something, you'll cling to it and you'll do it. And recently I had an author come on to a TikTok, make an outrageous and disgusting comment that has no place to have happened. It's not even a conversation starter because it was a disingenuous bad faith comment, right? I just blocked. I just deleted and blocked. And I thought that's really upsetting. I really liked that author, really loved her book. Then went to my Facebook, then went to where else? I forget where, and then came back 2 hours later and started tagging people, like just wanted to pick a fight with me on an issue that we agree with because she isn't privy to what happens in reality and in my life and what I've been doing, nor is she entitled to know. I don't even know this person. But what is crazy is she could have asked anybody around me because she does know people around me, and then she would have known the truth. And instead of her getting so worked up and spending hours of her day attacking somebody, she could have known she had an ally, right? She could have had inside scoop. And instead, she just decided that she was going to attack somebody and she just picked somebody. And it just happened to me. And thankfully, I'm at a position in my life right now where I can be like, oh, that really knocked me out of my power for a second. That hurt to have an author who I really loved, a book that she wrote, I've even promoted it before, say that to me. Like it's such an awful thing. And it's triggering for me because I had to go through an experience and I am still dealing with some things concerning it. It's not helping me. It's not helping the situation. And we're both on the same side. It's kind of like, what are you like? If you could just take a minute, but people don't take a minute.
No.
They don't.
And no one
especially
gives
when
each
they're
other the
triggered.
benefit of the doubt anymore. No one
Yeah.
like goes, you know what, maybe I should just look and see before, that they aren't a horrible person. We're just extremes nowadays. We're like, I see a little hair of you wrote a word that this means this, you must be a horrible person. And I'm like, that's not, is it
Sometimes green, the color green is just green.
Yeah.
It's just
I love that thing with the English teacher. Like the English is like, why did the blue, like the author write the blue curtain? What does that symbolize? And the author's over here going, it's just a fucking blue curtain.
in English. Sometimes green is just green.
Shit.
The reason this gets so messy though is sometimes it's not green and people are right.
Yeah.
And but in those
but
cases,
usually it's very
usually what's
it's,
that?
It's very just you can tell.
Yeah. Well, we can tell.
It's
We
very
need
obvious.
experience, right? You need experience to be able to tell, right? Or you need, it wasn't one thing, it was multiple things, or it was an egregious thing where it's like, how could
But
you
I
have
see
ever
egregious
thought?
people doing awful things and they're still getting movies and book
Oh yeah.
deals and stuff.
Well, that's
So
good. That's the yeah. So you can't
yeah, but it just then you
Yeah.
see the smaller like person that actually didn't deserve it, and you're like, what is the like? Why are you guys getting upset about
Well,
them?
and I think that's a psychological thing. It's much easier to hurt somebody smaller and feel like you
Oh, yeah.
accomplished something than going after somebody who already got the deal and is going to be fine. Like they're so big that you can't take down. So instead of doing what's morally right for them, they do something blindly, not
Mhm.
needing confirmation, not needing proof, just to feel better. And it's like you like that is one of my I have a list of things that need to be checked off in order for me to post something. And one of them is do not justify hurting somebody else because you are hurting.
Yeah. And I
And
think that's a big thing in our world right now. And
yeah,
we seem to, it always bleeds into the book world, is that we're so scared and hurt, and we need somebody else to feel worse than us, or at least
Mhm.
with us. Like, was that misery loves company kind of thing? And
yeah.
so everybody's just tearing each other, like, especially that whole thing of like, let's talk about the worst books. I want to just constantly talk about like, awful things instead of like, why don't you talk about the books you love and
They
spread that
do get
joy?
the
But
most likes though. Even on
Yeah.
Reddit, I have a subreddit for
negative
romance books. And
wins every
yeah,
time.
all it does, I just have to vent. This is awful that people do this. That's everybody's gonna look.
Yeah.
Everybody's versus, oh my gosh, this book changed my life. And half the people might look, half the people they don't know. They don't really care if it changed your life, right? But they care about thinking poorly of somebody, especially when you're in a negative place yourself.
Yeah.
Which is why we need more people to read romance books rather than be on social media. So
I know there's the hint of like TikTok being banned again. And there's part of me that's like, "Ah, maybe we're just better off."
well, the other social media, it's not much better.
Wow.
It's really not
No,
much better,
I
especially
really do.
YouTube.
The isolation that, yes, there's a lot of good things that come from social media, but I feel like this unempathetic thing is started from social media because everything's
Yeah.
distant, everything's from
I
Mhm.
behind
think
a
we've
screen, everything's
peaked
behind a
though.
phone.
Have you feel?
What?
I feel like we have peaked in the what's it called? Empathetic? Not the unempathetic.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
I think
Oof.
we've peaked in that. I really do, because people have seen the negative consequences. And at the same time, like I've seen authors who try to be like the cool girls and be mean and sarcastic, and then get
Mhm.
trashed by an audience who sucks at the teat of a horrific queen who is just nasty to people all day long. And they are her queen. And it's like, where are your, like, you think one is funny because they're making fun of somebody with charisma, but somebody else you'll attack, destroy their life, and move on with your day as if like it's just I think that we have peaked. I think that it has happened so much and people have been
Hope so.
duped so much, don't you? Or at least maybe for this generation.
I hope
This
so.
I
generation
hope
of the
so,
young
because every
20s.
time I feel like, oh God, it can't get worse, it
That's true. And it's not just the
does.
generation of young 20s. There's also millennials who do it, which I just think
Yeah.
you've lived so long. How have you, like, how are you still doing this? But at the same time, when you're in a negative place emotionally, psychologically, sometimes it can be hard to acknowledge things. So I try not to judge. I try to give grace and just keep it moving and protect my own mental health. But when we get into this messy space, sometimes I look at this person who's angry, who is, speaking about moral issues. And half the time I'm wondering, can you show me? And then the other half, I'm like, oh my God, that's horrific. And then I have to remind myself, is there proof? Because
Yeah,
there's
Yeah.
so much that is false. And
faults
Mhm.
out
people
there.
are
Yeah.
so emotional
And
that
that goes
And
off
no
of
one
my
ever, I
theory.
feel like the majority of people just never look for proof
they
anymore.
don't.
They just take the word of
Yeah.
others so
And that's
blindly.
everywhere. That's everywhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not just our
Yeah.
industry.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
No one researched, but I'm on this mountain. If I have to die on it, I will. But I really feel like reality TV was, and I'm sorry, Willow, but reality TV was the decline of people like, because that culture of never growing up out of the mean girl thing. You watch the housewives, they're throwing tables and they're acting, their Jersey Shore, all of that, and like has us now, even as adults, being like, that's famous. That gets, they get money for that. They get congratulated for that. They get benefits from
I
being
like
that. And
reality TV for the lifestyle porn. Okay. I like to see a rich bitch. And I don't necessarily need them to be catty or petty or
yeah,
dark. There are so many, even if you go back to the original, I agree with you. The original Orange County Real Housewives and the original Beverly Hills, there is some very devastatingly dark things happening within families in both of those casts. And I look back and I just think, how did they air that? Like, how are these people now? Are they okay? And I didn't start in the beginning of the Real Housewives, right? I came in. I love Real Housewives. I would still do reality TV, even though I feel like
I'm
it's
like the
not my
opposite.
best
I
interest.
hate reality. I
What about
despise
you?
them.
Like Top Chef, though, right? Like cooking shows?
No, I mean, I'll watch like like spring championship or something like that. The
My
like,
Lottery,
Reality.
I
Dream
like anything
Home,
with
House
talent.
Hunters.
Yes,
So
House
that's me.
Hunters. So there's reality TV that doesn't have that impact. I
Yeah.
think it is specifically TLC and Bravo that brought on
Yeah.
shows that manufactured drama. You have the Kardashians, same exact thing. There was manufactured drama. And it is kind of crazy how it did
It's
become
in
like
our culture
a
now.
team
It's in the
sport of
TikToks. It's
which
in
one
the
do you
book
hate.
world,
Yeah. When you ask now, it's literally like, what team are you on? It's which one do you hate? And it's like, how are we watching a show where you have to pick somebody to hate? Right? It
Mhm.
shouldn't be that. I think they're all fantastic
And
and
the line
fabulous.
of
And I
like
hate it when
knowing
they
that
hmm?
reality TV show is actually fake, but we don't seem to like, like
It
our
doesn't
brains
click.
still, when we go out in public, seem to now act this way. And as adults,
Yeah.
the kids, I'm like, geez, they used to grow up and be like, I want to be, a nurse. I want to be this. And now they're like, I want to be a reality star. I want to do makeup on TikTok. And that, it's just like,
Well, I mean,
okay.
yeah. I mean, if somebody told you could make more money doing less work, a lot of these people, I do think that
Yeah, fair enough. And that's
yeah.
sad. We should be paying
But
our
one of the Real
teachers and
Housewives'
nurses more.
daughters at University of Delaware right now.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah, one of the Real Housewives' daughters is
Oh,
at the
okay.
University of Delaware right now. She's getting her
How'd
degree
you get
here.
in?
I I think they're smart. One thing I will say is Teresa Giudice's daughter. One thing
Um,
I think that she was a good mother for what she was given in life. At the same time, I have so many opinions about everything that's happened. We are not talking about
Okay.
Real Housewives right now.
Yes. Now
Let's
we're
back
getting on reality
away
show, but
from Teresa Giudice and the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and get back to the point. Though is there, I do think I hope that this kind of mean girl, moral self-righteousness, outrage culture, I'm going to make you mad about somebody so that you love me and that we hate her together. I
yeah,
think in
mean
a
girl thing.
hope that has either declined or that enough people within the generations that are currently most active on social media have enough cognizant awareness to say, wait, is this true? Or this isn't for me and all of that. But the problem we brought up earlier is if they speak out on it, they then get bullied.
mhm.
Or if they say, hey, do you have any proof? A lot of times they'll be like, you can Google it. And it's
Oh,
like,
I love
I
that
have
answer.
Googled. I Googled
Yeah.
somebody recently who I saw and I was like, well, what did they do? Couldn't find a damn thing. Couldn't find a damn thing. But now there are people with her name on a list. And it's like, do you guys know? Because I looked because in the comments, you told somebody to go Google and you can't Google and find anything. So,
Just ask me if you can't find out.
oh yeah.
I can probably
Yeah,
Got
find
the
out.
I will.
we
Yeah.
got the CIA agent
Got the
right
beat.
here.
Yeah.
I mean, Willow, you went through this where you were accused of things and people just jumped on the
Multiple times.
bandwagon. And
Even, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Two
Yeah.
weeks ago,
I
I was
saw
accused of
many
things.
influencers
Yeah.
jump on that and go, "Oh, they called you problematic." I'm like, you don't
Yeah.
even fucking know her. Like, and
Exactly. And
that's
not exactly.
like
I might be problematic for some things in my life that I do, which is why I'm in therapy and I want to be better, but it's not that problematic and it's not that problematic and it's not that problematic.
yeah.
Literally both. Like I'm trying to be a better person and grow always in all ways, but when you lie about me and then you're like hold her accountable, it's like for a lie? Like you want people to hate me, harm my business, which I do as much goodness as I can with my business. I employ over a dozen people. Many of them are moms with children, and this is their sole income. And you want to cause pain and harm there for a lie? Like come up with something better. Like
Mhm.
really, you got to come up with something better than that. But people don't care if it's a lie, right? And that has happened throughout my entire career from the very beginning where I almost quit, 2 years later where I almost quit, and then recently with somebody. And my biggest fear, this only happened a few weeks ago, my biggest fear was it catching steam and people
Yeah.
saying, it's okay to say this. She said it first. You can't sue me. Right.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. They're willing to hurt you as long as they're protected. It's almost like what we just talked about with Amazon. Boycott, 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 hurt that, but don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. Oh my gosh, I was going to say something else and it just slipped through
And
me.
all these people that
I
are
talked a
saying
lot. Yeah.
doing this, if it flipped tables on them, they would be the loudest crying wolf of how
Oh,
unfair it was. And
100%. And it scares me for the tables to flip onto these people because the way you get them is the way you keep them. And they gain a lot of these audiences by hating and harming people. So they have this whole audience of wolves. And the
Mm-hmm.
mental deterioration, I don't think you can understand it until you go through it. And it is like, this is why there's several TikTok influencers. One was 16 years old, killed themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and
Maybe.
I believe that that child had more to do with home life from what I have read about
But that was
online.
just another camel straw,
Yeah, it's just
situation
not a
of like,
camel. But
everybody hates me. Yeah.
nobody deserves that kind of heavy weight.
No.
Nobody deserves that. And progress isn't made by whipping somebody down to their bones. And
Yeah.
nobody should feel like they have a right to take somebody's
Yeah.
flesh because you heard from somebody else and you didn't even bother to look to see if it's true. But they're worse than me, so I get to go ahead and hurt them.
Yeah.
Like none of that
Like, the
logical sense
soul
and
of this,
moral.
I think, is like, find our humanity again. Let's remember we're all humans. We all mess up. We trip. Like,
Yes.
no one's perfect. This,
Mhm.
you sitting on your judgmental chair, pointing down, is
Mhm.
going to be very, like it's all made on glass then, because soon you might be the one falling through it. It's just
Yeah.
like, let's find empathy and compassion for each other and know that, like, maybe they didn't mean that. Maybe because sometimes, all of our mouths open. Sometimes I'm like, oops.
Yeah.
And not necessarily did I even mean it, but it came out a way that I'm like, ooh, that's probably sounded awful, you
Mhm.
know.
And all you
And
can
just
do
to
is,
give each other a little
yeah.
grace there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just catch it and try to do better. It's the same exact thing like what we were talking about at the beginning with the follow, unfollow, block. There's drama. What do you think about this? I hope they're all good. I hope it was a learning lesson. If there needed to be a learning lesson, I hope that they didn't take it personally if it wasn't meant to be personally. And I'm going to continue to make my coffee and go about my day because it's not really my fucking business.
And I
Right?
just want to add, just because you put at the beginning of your video, this is for entertainment purposes only,
Yeah.
which seems to be the new trend, doesn't make it any less damaging.
Yeah, or allegedly. If you say
Yes.
allegedly, and then you go on and be like, and that's horrible, and she did blah, and she like
Yeah.
that's not allegedly, right?
And it
Like,
also
Well, and
doesn't
people don't
protect
listen
you
to
if,
that word. They
mhm,
like the drama, so they scrap over allegedly and just,
yeah.
hear,
That
oh my
also
God, they
doesn't
did that.
protect you if someone decides to
really.
sue you.
The
It does not
problem with
protect.
suing people though is that it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to sue
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
And it can cost a whole lot of money. And when I've been given legal advice in the past, it's
You're
never
like,
been
let
to
it go.
sue. They've
Yeah.
never, and there have been people who have physically assaulted me. And I was still recommended not to sue. And what I've been told by multiple different people is wait until you're at this level, and then if it happens again, just pick somebody.
Hmm.
That's what legal teams consider
Yeah.
lawsuits. It's a way.
But
It's
see, there may
literally,
be somebody
yeah,
out there that's at that level and
yep,
decides to pick somebody. So you
yeah,
And
never
you're
know
it,
who that
baby.
somebody's going to be. And that doesn't protect you.
exactly, And even if you are protected, but you're going to court, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're
Yeah.
paying so that you can go ahead and be nasty on the internet and get some likes and
Yep.
followers. And instead of going to therapy, you're taking out your anger on somebody else, right?
Yep.
So
Just
at the
listen
same
to
time,
that.
though, at the same time, we do want progress in morality. And I do want to know if people I'm surrounded with are racist or anti-Semitic or
Yeah. Oh
xenophobic.
gosh, yeah.
I
But
know, right?
yes.
So it's like, that's where it
No,
becomes
I
more,
mean,
but I
I
want the
understand
proof.
like not wanting to read those books and you
Yeah.
personally making that decision. There's
Yeah.
definitely authors I don't read, but
Oh,
to get
same.
on there and not know them and already be like burn their books and again scold people in your comments for being
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I like that book," and you're like,
Hmm.
"But they did this. You didn't know?" It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, God, people
And
Yeah.
then there's
stop.
the people that say, I'm reading this for entertainment purposes. I don't care about the author. That's
Yeah.
a whole
I'm
other argument.
I'm like, I would never give a dime. I would never give a dime, right? And I found out with some poetry books that a poet that I really loved was a freaking child, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I
I
was
think
just
I know
like,
what
that
you're
was
talking about.
devastating to me. So what I do is when I learn those things, I just simply don't promote it because for me personally, I'm not going to put money into the pocket of somebody who does something that, right? But I'm also
Mhm.
not going Well, I don't know. I would say I'm not going to scream it from the rooftops, but if I'm on a panel or if I'm something and somebody's brought up, I'm very transparent. I'm always honest. So, but my goal is always to promote the positive, and that's a part of my
Yeah.
manifestation. It's a part of my spirituality. I don't think of I don't even write negative words down on like my we did at a retreat, we did a little visualization board, and some of the stickers were like, nothing stands in my way. And I was like, that won't be on my sheet. Nothing stand in the way. Absolutely not. No. But the sky is the limit. There you go. That's way better. So that's just my personal values and what I want to focus on, my energy. But some people aren't like me. A lot of people aren't. I'm pretty fucking weird, actually. So
We all are.
yeah.
We love you
But
for
the
it.
last, yeah. Go ahead, because I was like, I had a thought. It went out my
And
head.
then it went up. I've finished my cocktail and my brain is now fuzzy, and I feel like I'm not as good as my asterisks and creating space for people and understanding and grace if they have a
Oh,
different
okay.
perspective. But
This is the last like just theme of this though of and then we can close it out. Was just being kind. I have noticed that like especially towards women authors, women are like burn that book, cancel them, da, da, da. While there's that other guy author that went and got women naked, younger underage girls to promote his books, and he's back now on TikTok and he's getting followers again. And I'm like, why don't they ever like?
well,
It just seems
sometimes
like
they
men
might
are
not
always
know.
like, what?
I think it's twofold. Sometimes people don't know and they're not educated, and a lot of times the drama comes, the drama goes, and people just blah, 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 and
Yeah.
once it's gone, right? And then once it's no longer in people's mouths, people aren't educated on it. So some people might be giving grace, but some people just don't know.
And
So
some people like that. Look at Casey Anthony is getting followers. I mean, like has million, and it's just like, come on, people. Like, aren't we better society than this? You know,
who's
um,
that?
the the
She did some
she killed. Yeah, she
her
allegedly
daughter.
What happened? What
killed
happened?
her child.
Her allegedly her daughter.
We'll talk about but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
okay. Hold
she's
on. Yeah, we ventured into a different territory. I was not
yeah
prepared. Was not.
yeah. I was like, you don't know, like
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm
So,
not
but
really
it's
good
just
at
saying
pop
like
culture.
how
Yeah, we're
like we seem to
whatever.
love awful people in our culture. Like we seem to
Yeah.
promote
Some
them. Like
people.
let's
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
And
or
so
at
I
some
guess
stages of their life, some people
yeah,
find
but it seems like
comfort
a
in that.
lot of the some people when they get like millions of followers in a day, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. They're very vocal also. Like sometimes it can feel bigger than it really is.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times when this hate comes down on somebody undeservedly or deservedly, you're the person who can cancel you, nobody else. Right. Like I've been asked at talks before recently, years ago, and in the beginning, how did you get through that? Why didn't you quit? Because a lot of other people would have quit. Right. But I
Yeah.
can't imagine going to my shop where I have full-time employees looking at their faces and being, somebody was mad at me on the internet because I did something wrong, or somebody was mad at me on the internet and they spread lies about me. You can no longer work here. I'm so sorry. I just have to go bury myself in the backyard. Like, I'm sorry, what? What?
Yeah.
There's a 0% chance that I could ever do that. So you have to sustain, right? You
And you
have
can
to
do it
keep
for a
going.
day. Like you can, like I have definitely, like I quit, I'm done, and bury myself, and you get up the next day and you get back to work. You know,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you
because
just
I
get
have
back to
no
doing it.
talent otherwise, so people don't cancel me.
Yeah.
I tell her all the time, you take your day and then tomorrow we start over.
Exactly. I also do that. It's 5 minutes. I don't even give myself a full day or even a 1 minute. I'm like, you can have 1 minute to feel this and then you have to let it go because I have shit to do. I have to be a mom to these 3 kids. I have to be a wife and I want to be a supportive wife. And I know that I can lean on him if I need to. But right now, is something that's online from somebody I don't even know worth more than 1 minute of my life?
Yeah.
And for me, it's not. At the same time, I have the privilege of having a social media team where I can say, hey, could you go in here? I don't want to look at these messages. People are being a-holes. And I don't even have to look at it. Right. And not everybody does have that privilege. So, and I'm sure, and, back in the day when I did have to do it myself, it did take more for me to just delete and block as opposed to being like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And this is really hurtful. And you should be sorry. Oh, that reminds me of an analogy. This could be a perfect analogy maybe for this end of the topic. It's if you're bit by a snake, You can either run into the woods after the snake, begging the snake to forgive you because you didn't deserve it and wanting to explain to the snake why you didn't deserve it and making them explain why they did it when like literally you could do that, or you could just go inside and fix your wound and go about your day.
Or you cut the snake heads off.
Stacey, that wasn't in the analogy. I'm telling you that option though, because that is I hadn't even thought of that yet.
I always come with violence. And like my brain is always the fantasy, like cut it off.
Yeah.
Do the Cleopatra thing. I don't know. Just pick your,
pick your poison. I hadn't even thought of that one. So for me, I guess I had moved on from cutting the snake of the head off and more.
She's all like being sweet and stuff like that. I'm like, cut the head off.
Well, not if it wants to the woods. If it wants
like
to
how
go
I
into
deal
the
with
woods
spiders in my house.
Yeah.
You show yourself you're dead. Your whole family's dead. It's like the mafia. Like you all die. You show yourself in my house. So, all right, that's a great analogy. We're going to go with yours, being sweet and kind and not cutting off the head. So,
you have a valid criticism there to the analogy. I accept it. I will bring it to my therapist. Me and myself and I mean, at some point, the snake could do something where I would want to cut its head off, right? But I imagine at that point, it would mean because going back, I couldn't go back into my house and be the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they would have
you have blood and guts all over you. You have to go take a shower first. So
had to.
Sorry.
If you guys have any comments, feedback, perspectives that we didn't hit, obviously I feel like we kind of go back and forth on things, right? Because it's very
there's no gray. I mean, it's all gray area. There's no right or wrong answer in a lot of these things, and that's why they're controversial because no one will ever have like this is it. That's the answer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but let us know, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Share with a friend. Even if you're just sharing for the gossip, we're okay with that. We're
use us, baby.
We're pretty hilarious too. Yeah. So
I think so.
We're here. So, and we will see you next time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.